don't want to know how Joan or I are doing?
I know. Oh, man. So we're
Good.
just getting ready for it.
No, I can't believe it. 1 year. Not the world.
Yeah, very alert. Um,
Got nothing but adults or second
Right.
child, third
Don't even get me started.
child.
Good morning, everyone. It's now 11:30. We're going to go ahead and kick off our pre-commission agenda. I don't have anything in terms of a president's report, but I wanted to open up the floor to any other commissioners if there were any other updates that they'd like to share at this time. I believe.
I do. Yeah, I sent an email to the director today. There's a neighborhood in East Boise, on East Boise Avenue. They petitioned last fall to have the speed limit lowered from 35 to 30. Boise Avenue has lots and lots of front on housing, and it's inconsistent because at one end it's 30 and at the other end it's 35. And there's one segment that just is constant speeding. We're going to have some features, hopefully, in the 5-year plan that'll help to calm it. But in the meantime, I agree with the neighbors. We need to bring that speed limit down, and I'd like to move that along because it's a chip seal year. If we could lower the speed limit now, when the chip seals are on there, people will drive slower too, and then and then put some of our temporary features. Maybe some by that time we'll have decided on some of the delineators along the bike lanes. They won't necessarily provide protection for the bike lanes, but they will probably help to calm traffic. So I would put that request in and see if we can't move that along pretty quick to get the speed limit reduced on East Boise Avenue from Law to Eckert down to 30.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. All right, are there any other general housekeeping items? If not, any questions about today's agenda? Okay, Director.
Well, good morning, Madam President, Commissioners. Lots to share with you today, but first, we have an introduction of a new team member. Here, Stacy.
Tess, if you would like to stand up. Tess Ferguson Phillips is our new admin specialist, helping me in the director's office as well as at the front desk, and we're excited to have her. So, fun to say hello and welcome.
Welcome.
Commissioners, hot off the press regarding Commissioner Hanson, Broadway. This is from District 3. Work will start on the 21st of May. It will be night work and will proceed until finished. Just as an FYI though, as part of the contract, they are removing the sod from the medians but leaving the trees. They've had problems with overwatering and landscaping access, so they have coordinated with the city of Boise on this aspect. So work should wrap up around the end of July, pending coordination with the water company and some main repairs they're doing. So May 21st, Broadway starts getting repaired.
That would be great if we could, and Shandy notify through Nextdoor and the Southeast Neighborhood Association, South Boise Neighborhood Association, to get the word out. They're going to be glad to hear this, but they're probably not going to be prepared for the activity because they have to resurface it. It's not a chip seal.
It's a complete similar to what they're doing to Eagle. And by the way, on Eagle, it is proceeding very nicely on the resurfacing. And this also is to be completed before July 4th, pending any type of weather issues, that sort of stuff.
They anticipate being done by. They anticipate being finished.
Eagle?
No, Broadway,
End of July.
end of July.
End
So
of July.
May 21 to July
Right.
31.
That's what they have
Okay.
stated.
Director, I have a question. How long will that resurfacing last? Like after it's complete, how long should it last? Do you have any idea?
From our standard, I'll answer from our standards.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the ITD, but, when we look at doing something like this based on all the preventive maintenance that we work through, we're looking at 20 some odd years moving forward. That being said, depends upon, what type of, initial work is done, the road use on that road, those sort of things. So, and as you all recall, when Eagle was redone, it didn't last as long as it was supposed to. And so, I'm looking forward to the good news that it's gonna be repaired and redone, and we'll go from there.
Thank you for that, because I think that's what I'm trying to get at too, is it's been in such a poor state for so long, and hopefully it can last.
Yes.
And, are there any, I'm sure we're gonna coordinate with them on all things as it relates to our right of way and connections to that, but are there gonna be any other impacts to our team as a result of this project?
Not as of now.
Okay.
But then again, we'll see what happens when they start. And so it's gonna have a little bit more about impacts to ACHD on other operations here shortly, but,
We will be chip sealing on both sides of Broadway.
Right.
This summer, during the exact same time, so.
so it's gonna be, we're happy that the contracts have been let.
Yeah.
We're happy that, all the construction presentations have been made, and that there are dates, moving forward. And
Thank you.
of course, we'll keep the commission apprised.
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney?
Director, what is the extent of the repaving from, what are its limits? Where does it start? Where does it end?
I'll have to check. I don't have the answer.
It's
All I
prob-
know is that I had a very excited call from District 3 saying it's May 24th, 21st, and we're on our way. So, great. But I'll find out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner
Could you
McKinney,
share
based
that,
on-
Commissioner Hens, can you
Yes,
share that with us,
absolutely.
Director?
It's probably from the freeway to Front and Myrtle.
Yeah. Because that's the worst part of it right now.
Yes.
But I'll clarify.
Would be helpful to know, though.
Yeah.
Commissioners, I would like to share a summary of last week's commercial developments, developers' comments regarding how and what they see as concerns. As we shared last week, this was a new agenda topic that I'd asked Ben Zamzow to consider bringing up, and it was very successful by all standards. I think both commissioners would agree to that as their comments. Anyway, the key discussion items were as follows. Orchard realignment. Huge concern from the developers as it was relayed that this area is a key location for jobs moving forward. Their request was to keep this on the integrated 5-year work plan. We have let them know that based on Boise's removal from their priorities, it has been pulled. It is now in a pause area. They are very concerned about this going forward. So we will continue discussions with Boise to see if we can kind of move the needle a little bit on that one. Number 2, there was a very good discussion on the uncertainty of economic conditions over the next year, which is causing the commercial developers to be cautious. They said there were minimal supply chain issues at this point. However, projects that will be put through the system, their system and ours, and then shelved until market conditions improves. Many developers are getting plans approved and then sitting on the permits, waiting for better interest rates and timing. This will be interesting as we go through the next year on operations. Out-of-state developers are more speculative and are making some aspects of the work more challenging with increasing risk to current developers here in Ada County and in Idaho. Current commercial focus is now on a very large mega projects as opposed to the smaller ones that they used to do in the past. And the long-term outlook for the Idaho economy, they say, is growth, but in the commercial and industrial sectors. Very cautious in the residential sectors at this point in time. Number 3, this came up several times, 5th and 6th Street and the streets around the Capitol. And I'll just, it's not popular topics with the developers, so I'll just leave it at that at this point in time. And then number 4, the upzoning in Boise. Some of the developers are now refusing to build in Boise if this is adopted. What was interesting, they relayed the fact that 2-story developments along key corridors, State Street, are a concern because these developments will remain there for years because it's too expensive to tear down and rebuild because it doesn't pencil out and such. So they raised that concern. Okay. Number 5, they tell us that we've lost some of the national business players already moving away based on limited mega commercial development opportunities. And then what was interesting, they said some of the national players are entering the housing market to undercut the locals. We'll see how this plays. It's called capitalism, but we'll see how this all plays out going forward. But I thought it was a very great discussion. I think it was supposed to be for about 10 minutes. We went a lot longer, and I think as I think Commissioner Hanson, Commissioner Goldthorpe will attest to, one of the best exchanges we've had ever. So we have institutionalized this now going forward every quarter to have them provide us then to you an update of what they think, what they see when it comes down to investment and development in not only Ada County but in Idaho across the board. Commissioners, yesterday several of us attended the Meridian Leadership Graduation event, and I am pleased to share that Joe Sean, our ACHC's fleet manager, and right over here, Christine Tamler, ACHC's budget manager, received their diplomas. It was a very proud moment for both and for all of us, and I gotta say, it was a lot of fun there at that. So they do a great job on Leadership Meridian. As a note, on May 31st is Leadership Boise's graduation. We have 3 tickets available if any of the commissioners would like to attend on that. Commissioners, as a reminder, ACHC's health fair and biometric screening will be held this Thursday and next Tuesday. As you know, this is an annual part of ACHC's wellness program and is a requirement for ACHD to fund each participating member's gym costs up to $30 a month. Thank you again, Commissioners. I believe we have over 180 team members already signed up for the health fair, but we still have room for more. Starts at 7. I can have HR get hold of you, sir, as soon as we're done, and they can give you all the specifics.
Go up, I won't expect to do anything but get to the back of the line.
Commissioners, we do have a growing concern regarding this year's chip seal season, and that is the absence of robust commercial traffic control and flaggers. We have been in contact with all the traffic control teams and companies, and they're having grave challenges on staffing. As you know, our flaggers are one of the critical keys for a safe chip seal season, and we will be back to you on May 17th, briefing you on our final game plan. But I just want to put that note out there that it's becoming very interesting. As an aside on that issue, we are looking forward. We do see a perfect storm on the horizon for August 25, 26th, and 27th, as Ada County will be hosting the fair, Gowan Thunder, and until yesterday, the Goat Head Fest, all in one time. All requiring traffic control support and all at the same time. We are advising the Guard, the Governor's Office, and Jimmy Halliburton about the issue for them to work through this. Again, looking forward. In my conversation with Jimmy yesterday afternoon, he has very graciously agreed to move the Goat Head Fest to 19 August, one week early. But this still leaves very challenging traffic controls for the fair and Gowan Thunder. I did send a note to the General and such. He was very appreciative of the update. They're looking at that now. Our traffic team for all will be in an advisory role, and as such, we hope that by highlighting this early for those 3 organizations, that we can all work through this without massive issues going forward, because the Gowan Thunder will probably bring in 150,000 people and such. And Jimmy Halliburton says that'd be great if it was all bicycle. I thought it was great. Commissioners?
Director, before you move on though, I'm just curious, so, I mean, thank you for the update, but I'm wondering, what type of role do volunteers play into these events? And
That
if
is-
that's a role that somehow they can be incorporated
That is
into?
one of the things we've made the recommendations on. There's training involved. I know for the Guard, they'll be now utilizing a lot of their soldiers on Gowan Field to help with traffic, but there are training requirements. Now, one of the companies we talked to, we didn't realize this. They're now, I want to say franchise, Paul, or national corporations, so they have opportunities to reach out of state to bring in folks, but again, that costs a lot of money, and that costs hotels. And so we wanted to raise this early so that people that are responsible for making those decisions and contracts have a good idea of what they're up against, and we can start working this. And our role in advisory would help them get through this as best we possibly can. It was very, very interesting. But commissioners, with the growing utility, fiber, drainage, irrigation, and road construction projects we are looking at, we're actually looking at ways to improve the day of alerts to the public from electronic messaging boards that show when traffic will be stopped for a considerable amount of time, to possibly geofencing the area to provide cellular Bluetooth opportunities for the public to know that you might want to not come this way at this point in time. Now, we've just started this, don't know if it's going to be possible, don't know if it's something we can do, but it's something we want to look at to see if we can, again, better support that movement of people for all users on the roadway. This came up last week when I got a call from one of our citizens saying they'd been sitting on Beacon Light for 30 minutes, and we had flaggers there, but the traffic was stopped based on some of the things that we're doing. So we hope to find a better way to, again, support the public on movement across the board. Commissioners, yesterday afternoon, several of us met with the Capitol Commission and representative from the state's administrative department to begin a conversation on how to best implement HB 25. Commissioners, we have offered them our full support to make sure this works going forward. I'll keep you posted on what their processes are going to be, because as you can imagine, they will have to start crafting policy requirements, you name it, across the board. Our recommendation to them was simple as best, but we wanted to assure them that, and it was at their request that they meet with us, that we're here to support and not be a hindrance going forward.
Commissioner Goldthorpe?
Yes, Bruce, question, did the conversation ever drift over to us participating in the same way we have in the past and not making it so that they have to make those time-consuming decisions that we thought were inappropriate? Are they going to ask us to take over their new responsibilities just because we're good guys?
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, I think that's a maybe sort of an answer. What we shared with them is that, again, we're here to help them be successful and everybody successful for safety operations across that area. We did share with them a lot of the challenges that now they're going to operate. We've also shared with them that we have a pretty good knowledge base and protocols that here, if you wish to adopt them, but we did let them know that they are in the driver's seat for this going forward. Our role is to help make this as less painful as possible on the public.
Well, if possible, I would like for them to present to us a work session about what they would expect us to do and why.
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, a great idea, and it was suggested to them yesterday that they should come before the commission. I think probably the General Counsel's smiling. And that was our request, and they thought it was a great idea. So we're at the very first steps of a long journey, but communication and coordination is going to be very important so that this works. Now, I do know that on certain, at least they shared with us, on certain projects, they have to report back to the governor, the pro tem, and the speaker. I don't know what those projects are and such, but again, Our role, as we said, we're here to support, we're here to help, we're gonna make this work, to the best of our ability. But we did say, you need to come in front of the commission, and,
Yes.
and they were very agreeable to that.
Thank you, Dirk. Thank you, Commissioner Goldthorpe, for your question. And I would just want to add too that, you know, we really tried to, when this bill was being passed at the legislature, we tried really hard to seek out that clarification, have a better sense of how that collaboration, in the spirit of that collaboration, what was the bill sponsor's vision for that? And I think this is, we're going to continue to work through it as of course you've outlined, but I think this is also just a side effect of lack of clarity and context around how we currently manage our roads and how we work with all these other partners for all these different projects.
Madam President, again, incredibly well said, and we did offer to give them a broom and a shovel for street sweeping and snow removal, but it's my sense that they're looking for help. This was one of these things that said, okay, now you're in charge.
Madam President, I would beg you not to say that this commission is in full support of their efforts.
We said that the staff was in full support to make this work, and knowing that it's now the law, and so.
It's
I was
their
very
problem, not ours.
It was very clear, Madam President and Commissioner Goldthorpe, that we were not speaking for the commission at all.
Thank
But
you.
from a staff perspective, that we are here to do our best to make it safe, workable, and then we'll see where it goes. Commissioners, as I shared with you last week, I had planned to meet with ITD's director and CEO last Friday at 7 o'clock in the morning to discuss Highway 16 funding and the ITD proposed MOU for such funding. Unfortunately, ITD canceled Thursday evening. I did receive a draft MOU, which is in front of you, Friday evening by email, and we have reviewed this, and you have the proposed red lines in front of you for your review. The staff and I can live with this to best ensure that the $36 million does come to ACHD in July sometime, but no later than July 31. And unless you have concerns, my intention is to send the red lines back to ITD at the end of this meeting to continue the conversation so we can move forward.
Madam President,
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
does this MOU in any way, shape, or form obligate us to commit ourselves to projects before we receive that funding?
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, no. Has the General Counsel stood up?
No.
Nope, I was okay, good.
Commissioner McKinney.
Yes, Director Wong, I spoke about this briefly with our general counsel. My only concern about this draft memorandum of understanding is that it could be construed to limit us, and I would like to see some language. It mentions only the Ustick Road and Franklin Road projects as being associated with this grant money. And I'd like us to put in language that would, broaden that out to make sure that that's the primary objective, but it's all things associated with Highway 16 should be on the table and should be allowed as part of this. And so I'd like whatever language is needed to kind of broaden that out. I'd like to see that.
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, absolutely.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
right along the lines of that suggestion, would it be possible to include a verbiage that would not commit us to every single project relating to the Highway 16 connections that the 36 million does not cover? That'd be a good idea.
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, I don't see the General Counsel falling over, nor do I see any of the commissioners wanting to throw something at you, so we can make that happen.
Thank you.
And Director, in case other commissioners have any other suggestions, when would you like that feedback by?
Today,
Okay,
please.
thank you.
Today, please, because I do want to move this along so that it isn't
Of course.
stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we won't cancel on ITD. Commissioners, that is my director's report. Do you have any questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yeah, this is regarding our chip sealing and our need for more flaggers. Would it be possible for us to postpone any of the utility projects that are taking flaggers away from us possibly hiring, so that we don't have to sacrifice part or part of another chip seal season like we've been known to in the past?
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, a difficult question. I would, after speaking with the flagging teams that I did this week, those contracts are let. Those contracts are out. They've long-range planning. I think that right now, what we are seeing, and it's across, I'm gonna say all of Idaho, it's not just the flaggers that people are having. It's all sorts of openings in businesses, restaurants, you name it, across the board. For whatever reason, there are still a lot more jobs than people are wanting to stand up to. And so I can look. I don't think it'd be very successful on that and such. And as I said, these contracts and obligations have already been made long-term. For instance, the fair to be won, not only from flaggers, but from the sheriff's labor detail. We will lose that group during the course of the fair and such. So I'll have to get back to you. I don't know.
Is it possible for us to, and this is just, I'm just kind of freelancing here. We seem to, because this is a choice place to work, we seem to, and other people pick us off because of our training and other things. Would it be possible for us to make some temporary offers to others, offers that they can't basically refuse for the summer? Or?
I will, how am I gonna say this one? Commissioner, Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, one of our team members just recently had a conversation with their son. And their son was looking for more challenging duty than working at Walmart. I don't want to, they're going to sign up for temps here. So I think we're already doing that. The enticements or the issues of things we offer far exceed other organizations. But at the end of the day, we're all fighting for the people just aren't there. And that's the problem that, again, the leadership in the Chip Seal organization that I spoke to was saying they're not there. They have the equipment, they have the supplies, there's just nobody there. So I'm confident that we'll be able to complete a majority, if not all, of this year's Chip Seal goals. I am not confident, and Jennifer will be sharing this with me later this week and to you on the 17th, that we'll be able to do it with the goal of having 2 stand-up Chip Seal teams moving forward, with the key point being flaggers. So, but I'll have to come back to you on that.
How many flaggers do we need, and what do we pay?
How many more do we need? Yeah, right. Yeah. So I can say,
well, that could be part of the problem there too.
it is a lot. I think we're settled. I shouldn't say it that way. I think we are in good shape to stand up again. Don't let me speed on this. A composite team, but I'm not confident at this point, based on all of that we'll be able to stand up to. We're not the only ones facing it.
Oh, I understand that, but you know, just from a competitive standpoint, if we were in charge of our own, future on this instead of relying on contractors, we might be able to stand up to.
Did you want to say?
Paul, can you go to the microphone, please?
With regard to how many flaggers we need, that's kind of depending upon where we are in the Chip Seal process. There are certain intersections,
Sure.
The more roads you got coming in, the more flaggers you need. So, there are some days where we're going to need 30 to 40. There's other days where we may not need quite as many. We're running into situations right now where we make a reservation for flaggers 2 weeks out. We get there the day of, and they're not showing up because A, people don't show up for work at their end, and B, somebody else said we'll pay you twice as much to come over here. So there's an issue all over the valley right now.
Madam President and Commissioners, the other issue on this is that this session is going to be challenging. Majority of it is arterials, and with that garners a larger number of flag staffers to ensure safe operations across the board. So we're working it. I just wanted to give you a heads up on this. On May 17th, we'll have the final going forward, and we'll do everything possible to make sure we get everybody we possibly can in here.
And Director, I think the commission's very interested and eager to hear what the next steps are in the plan. So please come back to us when the details are a little bit more firmer and what the need is and how we can support you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lordy. Goodness
Was
gracious.
it Jim's district?
Yeah. I have a gavel. I might use it. Watch out. I know. We all have important districts, Commissioner Hanson. Yes. All right. Well, we're going to call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone that's online and in person. Please join us in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. First order of business is to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Next order of business is to adopt the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered routine and are action items unless otherwise noted. The consent agenda is enacted by one motion. There is no separate discussion on items on the consent agenda. If a commissioner or citizen would like, they may request any item be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. If we do not have any of those requests today, I would stand for a motion.
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney,
I move that we approve the consent agenda as posted.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, moving into the regular agenda. These might look a little familiar.
And Madam President,
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
as such, without a whole lot of discussion on them, might we just discuss the reasons that possibly that I'm going to make to defer them again, this time indefinitely until we have the funding from the state in hand? And I'll do
Go
each
for
one
it,
of them
Commissioner.
individual.
Yeah, you have the floor. Go for it.
I'd like to make a motion then that item number 1 be the professional services agreement be deferred until such time as we actually have the funding from the state for these projects. And as a discussion item for that motion, again, this is the third time that this has been before us, and we really have nothing more to reassure us that we should go ahead and spend our money before we have, and commit ourselves before we have received the funding. So I wish to make this indefinite at this time.
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney.
I wonder, and perhaps someone can clarify this for me, the memorandum of understanding we just discussed a few minutes ago, does that memorandum obligate the Idaho Transportation Department to transmit that funding to ACHD? Because if it does, if it becomes a legally binding obligation on their part to give us the money, it strikes me that that might be sufficient, enough to go on. In any case, can you help us?
Sure. Madam President, Commissioner Steve Price, General Counsel. Well, I have a certain opinion about MOUs, and the opinion is that they're generally not as binding as agreements. There's no consideration. But I will tell you that the statute that makes the appropriation clearly requires ITD to transfer the funds to us by July 31. If they don't, that's actually more binding on ITD than any MOU that we can sign. So I don't think that there's I think the real purpose of the MOU is really, when you understand government accounting standards, it's more about that than it is anything. We tried in the red lines was to eliminate anything that went beyond the appropriation in the legislation. We understood the accounting aspect of it, and we agreed to that, but one, if you look at the agreement, it only has the directors of both organizations executing it. Statute requires that for it to be legally binding, the governing board of both entities would be required to execute it. So I don't feel that as comfortable about the MOU requiring it as much as I do about the bill that appropriates those funds to ACHD.
Would it be possible, along with execution of the MOU, to request from ITD, a letter, essentially committing to transfer the funds in accordance with the state law?
Sure. Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, absolutely, we can do that.
Because I think if we had that in writing, if we have this memorandum of understanding and then we have in writing from them that, yes, we are going to give you the funds between these dates as agreed, I would look at that and I would say that would be enough for me to be willing to approve these projects that we're looking at. Even though we know, the money still isn't here, but they've, here's a state agency that's officially in writing declared that, yes, the money's coming to you. In a case like that, because we know they have the funds, they've received the money, and so if they commit themselves to transmitting the money, that would be enough for me. That being said, since we don't have either of those right now, I'd be inclined, as Commissioner Goldthorpe has mentioned, to defer these 4 items for another week. And a week from now, if we had those items, I'd be willing to approve these 4 elements. So, thank you, Mr. Price.
Madam President,
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
I might be convinced to go along with that if the letter is binding and if they go along with our changes proposed to the MOU, because especially with regards to what Commissioner McKinney brought up about this being attached to the USTIC project, that's not going to cost $36 million. So the way this MOU is written, if we don't spend it all on that project, we got to give it back or something. I don't know. So there needs to be some better wording.
If I may, if they offer a letter committing to give the funds, and in reliance upon that, we go ahead and approve some projects, we then, speaking as an attorney, we then have a reliance argument that that's a binding contract. Even if there's no consideration, we would have relied upon their representation that they're giving us the money, they would be obligated. And so it would be essentially a contract.
Well, and again, essentially a contract for what? The USTIC projects.
Well, no, as we talked about earlier, this memorandum of understanding is going to be broadened so that it would apply to all the Highway 16 related improvements.
Okay, I was referring to if it wasn't broadened.
Right, yeah, well, right, and no, I understand. So I think if so in any case, I think for the moment, let's defer these for another week.
Well,
that would be my suggestion.
I'll leave that for a substitute motion then.
Commissioner McKinney, would you make a motion?
Well, yes, then I would move that we defer agenda item number 1, professional services agreement for USTIC Road, Owyhee Storm Avenue to Black Cat Road. Defer it for 1 week, so that's until May 17th commission meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? I didn't view that as a motion yeah, I don't think that was a motion, Steve. Thank you though. Thanks for clarifying.
This is the original.
Yeah, this is the original motion. I would agree with Commissioner McKinney's motion because hopefully, I know that when people are motivated to get things finished, things can move pretty quickly. So, cautiously optimistic that we can hopefully get this back in, finished, get a better MOU that we both agree to, get it signed, get the monies, and at least by next week, potentially we could have a signed MOU. And not that we would get the money yet, hopefully, we'll see. And a letter, yeah, so I think that's a very reasonable, next step, and yeah, I would be supporting the motion.
Madam President?
Commissioner Gold?
Yeah, thank you, and I agree, with the course of the discussion, and, I'll support the motion. I'm sensitive to the fact that there's multiple agencies that are, interested in moving this project forward, and I also agree that we, shouldn't be committing if we aren't gonna be getting the funds. So considering all of those pieces, I think, deferring it another week and seeing where we at is appropriate.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion passes.
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney?
I move that we defer item number 2, the interagency agreement with Nampa Highway District Number 1 for Ustick Road, Owyhee Storm Avenue to Black Cat Road, deferred to action on May 17th.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes, me.
Okay, motion carries.
Madam President, I move that we defer item number 3, the professional services agreement for Franklin Road, McDermott Road to Black Cat Road, for 1 week to the May 17th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you, motion passes.
Madam President, I move that we defer item number 4, interagency agreement with City of Nampa and Nampa Highway District Number 1 for Franklin Road, McDermott Road to Black Cat Road to
17th.
for 1 week to May 17th. I'm sorry, I was just distracted there because I was looking at items 3 and 4 and their titles for a moment looked identical to me, so I just had to
Oh, you're good.
clarify what I was reading, so.
Thanks,
Second.
Commissioner McKinney. Thanks, Commissioner Henson. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion carries.
Madam President,
Commissioner Goldthorpe?
I would ask for one thing as a courtesy, is that when this is brought back next week, that it not be as part of the consent agenda, that it be just put on the regular agenda.
Will do. Thank you, sir. All right. Moving into public communications, is there a member of the public that would wish to address the commission this time?
No.
Okay, thank you. And with that, meeting is adjourned. We have one, post-commission work session on the fiscal year 24-25 budget and integrated 5-year work plan. Welcome, Ms. Christine Tandler. Or Christy. Okay, I only see Christine, so.
To me and correct me. Okay. What I like. Madam President, Commissioners, for the record, Christine Tandler, Budget Manager for the Highway District. I'm here to go over some early considerations for the budget, and then I will pass it on to Christy Inselman, who will go over Integrated 5-Year Work Plan early considerations. So as we go over, I'm gonna kind of talk about on the budget overview. So from a revenue perspective, I talk about new revenue, and then I talk about cash reserves. So when I talk about new revenue, that's revenue that comes into the district within the same fiscal year that we're planning on spending it, comparative to cash reserves that influx the budget from, again, those priority corridor reservations, future facilities, and then the potential Highway 16 supportive funding that was just discussed. So I'll go through these items. So these are our revenue sources. The top 4 are our biggest ones, being property taxes, highway users fund, registration fees, and impact fees. And the fees and services, a lot of these are have comparable operational expenses related to them. The development fees are related specifically off FTE calculations, license agreements. Street name signs have to do with sign expenditures that we have for subdivisions. And then on the miscellaneous is our property and equipment disposal and our interest. So some assumption highlights that I've done for FY 24, earn our current certification for property tax is 46.3 million. Options are 3% allowable. Construction roll is about $2 million. We do have a foregone balance of 11 million. I will say that, and then sales tax revenue, this does include the additional TECM funding that was put through sales tax. It does go through the Highway Users Fund calculation. I left the verbiage in there because, again, as we continue to work through this and see how sales tax collections happen through the years, this calculation will change year to year because it's anything over the $80 million going through the Highway Users Fund calculation. So that is for transparency purposes and then to help me remember which calculation that one goes through. So we are looking at about $7.8 million in sales tax revenue for FY24. The Utah County registration fees, these are the vehicle registration fees, showing $13 million a year with about a 3% increase through the integrated 5-year work plan. A previous slide showed that expired in 2028. I apologize. I found verbiage from the original referendum, and it does show January 1st, 2029. So that is an FY29. Highway Users Fund, this is 44.8 million. And then impact fees, currently we're at about 24 million projected for FY23. We could see a budget adjustment of that at second adjustments. Things have slowed down, as the director was speaking of. So we are pulling back on FY24 going forward with $20 million a year and then about a 1% increase through the integrated 5-year work plan. Again, we look at these revenues multiple times throughout the year, and then we'll recalculate them as we go forward. And look at the projections as we go through the budget each year in the integrated 5-year work plan. Again, other revenue sources, about $4.3 million. Like I said, those have corresponding operational expenditures related with most of them. So total projected new revenue, again, this is new revenue coming into the FY24 time period, is 137.5. For comparison, the FY23 budget, the new revenue budget was, the new revenue in the budget that was adopted was 138.1, and we ended up adopting about $180 million budget. So that'll show you what the cash reserves and the carry forward additional amounts are in our budget. With that, so some items that get added in addition to the future facilities that I would call not new revenue, but cash reserves. We have the project-related revenue sources. As we go through second budget adjustments, we look at rescheduled projects. Those are projects that were originally anticipated to be completed in FY23, but due to scheduling changes, and that could be in way construction or design, we reschedule those funds into the next year. So that's kind of a carryover of funding from one year to the next. So we show that as revenue in the next year and those expenses correspondingly. And then we remove it from the FY23 budget. Cost share and federal aid revenue, as we continue to formalize the budget and know which projects are happening, then we will be working with our partner agencies for the cost shares to see which projects they want to be participating in. This year we had some pretty big adjustments at first adjustments with relation to Brandon Road Bridge, with their sewer project in Star. And then the federal aid revenue. I also have on here the RAISE grant revenue. So these are funds that we received for the design of our access to opportunity projects. We do have an ACHD match of 20%. So is how this will work, is you will see the entire expense will be coded, and then we will receive a with that for 80% of those costs. It's done on a reimbursement process. And then the Highway 16 supportive project revenue, again, that we are working through those projects right now also. Just some highlight, this is some of the same information that I gave you back in March. Medical and dental increase, we're looking at about a 5% increase. We should know more typically around June-ish. Planning on a 5% COLA currently. Excuse me, our future facilities, we're looking at a groundbreaking for the construction of the Franklin Traffic Center in the next few months. So we will see some big expenditures there. That should complete construction in FY '24. Apple and U Sticker in full swing of design. I think they have a plan for mid next summer to have 100% plans, and so then they'll begin, and we'll be doing, it'll probably come through as budget adjustments, mainly to square up that construction schedule on both of those parts. And I'll hand it over to Christy. Paperclip.
Oh. Good afternoon, Madam President, Commissioners. For the record, Christy Inselman, Planning Supervisor in our Planning and Projects Division. So I'm here to talk about the Integrated 5-Year Work Plan, just some early considerations, just touching base on where we're at currently in the project. You can see our very colorful schedule. I got very into our new logos and our new design. I got very happy about that. Love color. So this just represents kind of where we're at in our year-long process. It started back in November of last year. So we've completed the first 2 blocks, which is our outreach, working with our partner agencies, working with the public, and we're now fully ensconced in our programming and program development portion of the Integrated 5-Year Work Plan. I'm pretty sure my calendar is blocked out for the next 2 months. So we are working on that now. So the next upcoming times that we'll be in front of the public will be in July. So we are targeting a July 19th for the release of the initial draft of the Integrated 5-Year Work Plan. That will open the comment period for both our partner agencies and the public. And that will be open from July 19th through August 16th. They'll have a full month to provide us feedback. And we will utilize a similar outreach option to what we had done in the past, where we have our integrated map, where our online interactive integrated map, where they can go project specific and provide individual feedback. We also have other alternatives for the public to provide feedback. We also reach out to all of our partner agencies to let them know that that draft has been released, for them to provide any feedback as well for project timing. We will also hold a public open house to the public in person. We're very excited about that, July 27th. So those are our busy couple months coming up, the remainder of May, June, and July. And then obviously targeting adoption of both the budget in August and the Integrated 5-Year Work Plan at the end of September. So a lot on that schedule. So the purpose of my presentation today is just having some early programming consideration discussions. We're going to kind of revamp, kind of walk through what that programming framework looks like as we develop the Integrated 5-Year Work Plan, capital revenue allocation methodology, as well as just a touch base on our Complete Streets, our ongoing programming opportunities, and then again, reiterating those future work sessions that will come back to you. So the programming framework, we always like to talk about the fact that when we're doing programming and where projects come from and why we're doing the projects that we're doing, that's never done in a vacuum. As much as I love to throw a dart at the wall and just pick projects that way, it is actually very thorough and systematic. I know the director loves my references sometimes. So it starts with our a lot of coordination with our partner agencies. It starts with our city and county comprehensive plans, and it's those jurisdictions that set the land use for the adjacent property next to our roadway networks. That also everything feeds into each other, as I tried to represent on this slide here for you. That also goes into our communities in motion, which is our demographic projections and travel demand model for what those uses are going to then generate on the local system, as well as the ACHE strategic plan, which delves into our asset management and our resource allocation. And then that also filters into all of those wonderful plans that we have adopted and continue to update regularly, which is our asset management plan, our ADA plan, our bike master plan, our neighborhood plans, which we are now have a complete neighborhood plan for the entire Ada County. It's very exciting. And our capital 20-year capital improvement plan. All of that filters in to the development of the Integrated 5-Year Work Plan. And then our capital revenue allocation methodology, just kind of setting those, won't say buckets, those areas that we look at as we develop the integrated 5-year work plan. So that top one is the safety and maintenance. That includes our signals, signal crossings, safety projects with documented needs. That also includes the rapid implementation project that goes through our development and technical services department, and asset management, so our capital maintenance and bridge programs. So system enhancements are those neighborhood plans and bike master plan projects that are not funded by the vehicle registration funds. We have 2 separate funding sources, the capital improvement plan projects, and we have programming obligations. These are ones that are dedicated funding sources for those specific areas. So that's the ADA and environmental compliance items, as well as our VRF, the ballot commitments, the safe routes to schools, congestion release, are those specific items that are tied to that, as well as our general fund support for the impact fee collections. And just as a reminder, because I know we used to say impact fee match, it's not a match. So if a project, for example, an intersection is designated as 100% impact fee eligible, that means that entire project is paid 100% through impact fee collections. If we have a roadway segment and it's 68% impact fee eligible, then our general fund support is that, and I have to do math, 32% of the cost of that project. I know, right off the cuff. So just wanted to talk about that. And then we also like to talk about the anatomy of a complete streets. So something that we did with the adoption of the 2226 is we had a few initiatives that we started, which was the shelf project strategy, was to try to get more design done so we could be reactive to funding opportunities. The other thing was a comprehensive project strategy, which is, if you're the term go in once, that is the strategy that we've been enacting and wholeheartedly embracing in our area. And what that means is we had a variety of different projects. We maybe just had a crossing project, or we had a capital maintenance project where we needed to go in and rehab a particular roadway, local collector, didn't matter. And when we did, we would go in and we'd, rip up this road, but we weren't addressing sidewalk gaps. We weren't addressing potential crossing locations or driveway upgrades. So our complete street is really to look at this more holistic approach. Does this corridor need traffic calming? Does this corridor need, enhanced improvements for the bikes, peds, vehicles? So we look at it a little bit more holistically. What that does is we're less disruptive to the neighborhoods when we go in there, which they very much appreciate, instead of going there 5 times. So that is a benefit. One of the, I wouldn't call it a downside, but one of the results of that is that it does cost more for these projects when we go in. So now we're adding a lot of funding to our maintenance programs, which are going to catch all of those community programs. And I will say they're more expensive on the front end, obviously. It also lengthens the amount of time that these projects take to do. So before a residential capital maintenance, very simple design, go in, rip up the road, fix it, and you're out. Well, now we're having to add additional elements. So the designs are becoming much more complicated and just more complicated. It's also adding right-of-way phases into pretty much all of our projects that we maybe didn't have before. So that is an additional burden to those projects as far as timing to get them done. But in the end, what we see is a much more complete, much more community-friendly projects as we move forward. And then just touching base at the end, did we ever fix the dates on this? We got to fix some of these dates. We apologize. That was my fault. So the next steps are a few commission meetings we're coming forward to you. So again, as we'll have the initial draft of the integrated 5-year work plan on the 19th. That open house with the public will be the 27th. That opens our public comment period. And then we have the adoption of the budget scheduled for August 23rd, and the adoption of the integrated 5-year work plan on the 27th. And then we will stand for any questions.
Thank you, ladies. Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yes.
Okay.
Just a general question.
Absolutely.
As we approach the next time that we talk about the projects that are in the integrated 5-year work plan, have we completely dropped from the plan the Orchard extension?
Madam President and Commissioner Goldthorpe, we are still in the early stages of programming. That is on hold for right now.
Oh, I understand that, but are we removing it from the 5-year work plan?
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, no.
Okay. I just don't want to see that disappear.
No, sir, that's not, it will not be removed from the plan at this time. It's just on a holding pattern.
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, just to add one other comment on that. For the record, it's Justin Lucas. I'm the Deputy Director of Planning Projects here at ACHD. We are keeping it in the plan. We're going to move all of the funding, though, to the future category.
Yes.
So you'll see it in the plan. It will be listed. But from a funding perspective, that when we say on hold, what we mean is the funding will be pushed out of the plan, and it won't show any dollars associated with it at this time.
Yep. If you were at the commercial developers meeting last week, you'd understand that there are some people that really want that back bad. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much. Looks great. Looking forward to the next draft of it.
We're very excited.
Exactly. All right, well, with that, we're over for the day. See you next week.